because great leaders have a view of the way things ought to be, but they get their hands dirty enough to come up with solutions for the messiness and the reality of the actual situation that they're living in today.
Hi, my name's Devon. Today I own several multi-million-dollar companies. We started with $5,000 in a credit card. I don't know the easy way. I only know the hard way.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Whiteboard Entrepreneur Podcast, where I give straightforward advice to fuel the entrepreneur in all of us. Today, I want to talk to you about how leaders do. Leaders do. And I think this is very important because oftentimes, as a leader, entrepreneur, someone pursuing your dreams, anyone out there that's hustling and really trying to do something great with their lives, most of us have a view of the way that the world should be, right? We have this kind of very idealistic view, whether that comes to, whether it comes to the way our relationships are, our families should be, the way our work should be run, the way, the team should be coached. Whatever it is, I think we all have a very idealistic view of the way that we think things ought to be. I mean, you can see that in politics, right? Where there's so many people that all they do is this side stands up and talks about the way things ought to be, and this is the way it was when I was growing up, and this is the way America should be. And then you have this other side talking about, no, this is how America should be, and you people are evil, and basically they just have this very idealistic view of how they want the world to operate, to act, and to do, and to serve them. And I think we all kind of have these type of views, right? So like if you're raising kids, like, I think, a lot of parents read, these parenting books, right? And they're like, oh, that's the way I'm going to raise my kid. And so they read this book and they're like, well, by the time they're 16 years old, they should have a job and they should be involved in 2 sports and they should be on the honor roll and they should be in Spanish club. And this is how I'm going to raise my kids. And I'm going to tell them I give them one warning. And after that, then there's discipline and all of these books on how to raise your kids, right? And we read these books and it's good, right? It's good to have advice. It's good to have an ideal of how you want to attack life. However, at some point, the reality of life hits, right? At some point, and God forbid, but your kid, maybe it's not quite going that way. Maybe they're struggling in school. Maybe, they're going through a wild streak and they're rebellious. And instead of doing sports and getting the honor roll, they're in the basement smoking weed. And now you have to adapt to how you want to raise your kids. That's, the book doesn't quite cover. It's like, idealistically, this is how I want to raise my kids. This is what I believe, but how do I deal with life now? And so I'm a coach, right? And I have my idealistic view of the way my season should go. And I'll tell a story right now. We're in the middle of a situation where the way that the whole season works in the fall in Arizona is there's a strange overlap between sports, right? And so one season overlaps into the other season. And if people make the playoffs and they make it all the way, basically they finish playoffs on one day and they start a game the next day. However, that means that, unless your kids go through protocol and clearance and everything, you have people that actually are not even playing in the first game. And so the way we've resolved this in the past is there's people come to practice, they observe, but basically they're getting practice time and all this and that. It doesn't matter. Anyways, the point being is that there's myself who has one view of the way it should be done, and someone that I really respect as well, that he has a view of the opposite way it should be done. And we both are like, no, this is the way, this is the right way, right? This is the best for culture. And I'm saying, no, this is the best for culture. And we both have these opposing views, and we could both stand up on our soapbox and say all of these great, inspiring things about why we're right, and each one of us independently be right. Like we could independently be right in our idealistic view of the world. However, the reality of the situation is if we both stand up on the soapbox, nothing gets resolved. And this is so often what happens in life and in business. I see this all the time, right? Where like in my business, people are like, well, right now we're dealing with this situation. Like, well, as soon as we get this digital marketer, they're going to come in and they're going to solve all of our problems. And that's a good solution, right? Like that's a good solution. The problem is we've been looking for this person for 4 months. And so what are we supposed to do in the meantime? Just bleed out? Or are people going to stand on their soapbox and go, no, the answer is we need a digital marketer. And I'm like, yes, I agree. I'm not saying that is wrong, but the reality of the situation is today we're losing money. And this is how we become impotent so often in business and pursuing our dreams. It's because we have these idealistic views, and if it doesn't fit our idealistic view, we don't do it, or we wait for things to be so perfect that it becomes it fits that view. And I know that I've seen this. I've seen this with people in parenting. I've seen it in dealing with relationships, and I have definitely seen it in business, where we sit back and we wait for things to be perfect. We wait until that perfect hire comes through the door. We wait until all of a sudden our org chart is perfect. We expect things to be perfection instead of dealing with the reality and the sloppiness of the situation. If you think about politics, I honestly don't think either side is really looking for a solution. All they want to do is say, this is right, or this is white, and this is black, and people want to argue over that instead of saying, hey, let's get together and let's solve a problem. And I believe that a good leader will have a view of the world. They will have an idealistic view of the way they want their company. They will have an idealistic view of the way they want their team. Like, I would love to have a striker who's fast and both-footed. I would love to have a left wing who can make every cross land right on the PK. I'd love to have 2 center backs that are 6'4" and run 4.240s, right? Like, that's my idealistic view of what I want for my soccer team. However, the reality is what you're given. And that's the reality of the situation. And so we live our lives waiting for perfection and demanding perfection instead of dealing what we have, because a good leader will have that real idealistic view, but a great leader will take that idealistic view and will get into the weeds and get their hands dirty and come up with solutions and problem solve. Because great leaders have a view of the way things ought to be, but they get their hands dirty enough to come up with solutions for the messiness and the reality of the actual situation that they're living in today. I'm Devon, and this is a Whiteboard Entrepreneur Podcast, and you have to take this lesson and go back and you have to apply it to your life, to your family, to your business, to your coaching, to whatever it is that you're leading, and realize that understanding that, hey, I would love my school board. As a school board member, I want my school board to act this way. However, the reality of the situation is this, and I'm going to be a leader that gets my hands dirty and comes up with solutions rather than standing on a soapbox. If you're a coach, if you're the leader of your business, whatever it is that you're the leader of, I'm not criticizing you for having a view of how you want things to be, but I'm encouraging you to jump into the weeds, get your hands dirty, and problem solve for the reality of the situation today. I'm Devon. This is a Whiteboard Entrepreneur Podcast. This one's going to help you.